This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey, there's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, and I'm smiling because if you knew what I did today, you would be smiling too. And it was one of those things where it's 174 live shows in a row. We do what we can to make it work to keep our live streak going. Huh, Carol? Only Carol knows what I'm talking about. But, you know, these guys will know what I'm talking about because when you march in the world of Drum and Bugle Corps, any obstacle that's thrown in a way, we know that we have to get through it. We got to get it done. Doesn't matter if it's on the field. Doesn't matter if it's after life. All of this stuff, we do it. And I'm reminded by that. I'm like, oh, I can do this stuff. I marched in a drum corps. This is easy. That's the hardest thing I've ever done, literally. So obviously streaming and live on over 100 outlets right now around the world. Let's see, K4HD Radio, Talk for Media, Talk for Podcasting. I'm remembering all these things. Streaming live on iTunes 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, and around the world.
Easy Way TV.
Huh?
Easy Way TV.
Oh, yeah, that too. And I forgot. So I'm going to let Carol introduce herself because all the other co-hosts I got rid of tonight. So since Carol was on part one, she had to come back for part two. Carol, tell them who you are and what's going on.
Hi, it's so great to be here. It is Giving Back Tuesday, by the way. And I highly recommend you support the arts through Dreamweaver Arts. Support preventing blindness for children with better vision for children. And tonight we're going to lean into supporting Bugle and Drum Corps, which is super exciting, right? I'm so glad to be back with you guys. I'm Carol Register. I support women in moving from 6 to 7 figures. I also work with those who have wealth and are miserable because it doesn't have to be that way. We can have our cake and eat it too. And I'm super glad to be here with you guys.
Hey, so Harold Barber, let's start with you. Tell them who you march with, what you're doing, and that what kind of percussionist you were.
Okay. Well, I started out with a couple of parade corps, the Bugle Gospel Tabernacle Drum and Bell Corps. And then my junior high school teacher, Mr. Johnson, he started a parade corps called the Cadets, where I played snare there. And then I was able to get into the Carter Cadets in their final season in 1969. And then from there, I went over to St. Rita's Brassmen until they disbanded in 1974. And I stayed out of drum corps for about a good 5 years. And then I went to the Dream Contest in 1980, and Skylanders were performing. And I said to myself, you know, I think I would like to try to do that again. At that juncture, my skills were very raggedy, to say the least. So when I saw them practicing on Randall's Island, I said to myself, I don't think I'm going to do this. But the drum instructor, Wes Myers, he said, you know, you got a foundation, you know, go home, work on your basics, and we'll see what happens. And I did. I burned every night just practicing to get my chops back up because by that time, they were like a championship drumline. They had just won the trophy, so they're walking around rehearsing with their chest out, like, you know, looking at me like, you think you're going to crack this line? Which I did, with perseverance and a lot of hard work. So I stayed with them for a long time. And
how many years?
Oh, my God. I would say about a good 15, I believe. I just couldn't get it out my system. because my junior corps years were cut short, so I made it up in senior corps.
And for the audience that may not know, when you're marching, you know, back in the day, you could start at age 6. You could be the cute little kid marching down the street. If you remember parades, Carol, you see the little kids in there in the parade, and you go, oh, aren't they looking cute? And then they would stay in there for years. So that's how we all started. Hey, Richard Dawson, come on to this conversation. Let's talk about how you started.
Yeah, I started with Wynn Center, which is Bedford-Stuyvesant-based drum and bugle corps, junior corps, from 1966 to 1972, when I aged out because I just turned 21. Wow. And from there, I went and joined New York Skyliners, and I marched with them in 72, which I might add, in my humble opinion, was probably one of the greatest senior drum and bugle corps I've ever seen. Wow. And I was in 1973, but to be honest with you, I did not get drum corps out of my system. After the 72 season, I got the cheating out of my system. And I had enough. Yeah. But now I'm working with New York Metropolis, and we're trying to bring a junior drum and bugle corps back to the city of New York.
You were so young. Talk about the cheating at that age. What was that like?
Yeah, well, to give you an example, and Harold could back me up on this, I think the senior season, we probably had about 16 contests that year. Mm-hmm. And Skyliners won every one convincingly, except for the preliminaries and the championship. And there was no way that we lost it. So it was the bottom line that pissed me off.
Yeah.
Yes, they had given them some obscure penalty.
Yes.
Final. They didn't have a penalty all season long, and here you get finals, and some judge decided, I think it was overtime that they said it was.
Actually undertime.
Undertime.
And this is a drill that we had perfected, used all season, never over, never under, right on the point. We were winning contests by points. Harold mentioned the dream contest. Yeah. The dream contest, I was in the drum line. The drum line was exceptional. It was so clean. When we were warming up that day for the contest, Wes was our instructor, same as with Harold. When we were warming up, we played about 2 minutes, and Wes said, go sit down, because the line was that clean. So the corps was really unbelievable. Actually, there was talk of having a contest between Skyliners and the top junior corps. That's how good the senior corps was.
Wow.
So for the audience for this, because Carol knows about judges, everybody can always complain about judging. Especially in gymnastics. If you go back to Coleman each and everything like that, there's always a problem. We've always got a problem with the judges. Except in the drum corps, if the judge got in your way, we were actually going for them to hit them. They might hit them, but we were like, if they were in our way, they'd see it. We were supposed to just go straight through them. They weren't there. So, and then they turn around and say, I was in the way, unless they were a bad judge, and they go, you know what? I'm going to tick you from the rest of the thing. Talk about the ticking system and what it was like for us kids to be in that age, because I didn't march in the senior corps, but I love the senior corps. Senior corps were always 21 or 22 and above, right up until your 80s. You can march still to this day.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't even realize that. So I'm so glad you're bringing that out, Brian. Like, I think the fact that you can still keep going. You mentioned gymnastics. There's a short life there. And there definitely was politics that came in and influenced scores. I saw it happen in plain daylight, right? If only we weren't human, that definitely brings an element. We see that in every sport, whether it's umpiring or whatever it may be, refereeing. So I would love to hear about that, the senior corps, and what that's like, and have you participated in that?
You mean the scoring techniques or the actual issues with cheating?
Like, can you play, or is it only judging after a certain point?
No. You in a senior corps you could play.
Mm-hmm.
till you drop.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no upper age you can participate and play. The limitation on age is in the junior course, and it's completely changed now. And Harold could bring you up to date on that because I know he's really, he's got his finger on the pulse with that.
Yeah, I remember, Harold, that you are the historian. Like you are the record keeper. So yeah, I'd love to hear, are you still involved in that? Are you doing that now, keeping your finger on the pulse?
Not so much of what's going on today. Basically just getting out information about corps who never got their due back in the day, especially the African American drum and bugle corps.
Yeah, That's right. And it's interesting, though, to look from a historical perspective. And I remember we talked about this in part 1, that you can still be involved in the sport. I think it's so powerful to be able to stay involved and see the evolution of the sport.
Well, the thing for me is that once there was no what I call a hometown team to cheer for, that's when I really started to lose interest, because I started like, why am I cheering for these groups who are not from my region?
Yeah.
They're not from New York. Matter of fact, there's no more Jersey or even Boston, Massachusetts corps that I could get behind. That region is basically gone.
Yeah.
The whole concept of
course, I have my Giants, my Knicks, my Jets, my Rangers.
Yeah.
In drum corps, I don't have anything.
Yeah, the whole concept has changed because you have a lot of international involvement. You have national involvement. These kids are paying a lot of money to march in corps. When Harold and I marched in junior corps, you didn't pay. And it has a different meaning for us, especially coming from our base in an African American junior drum and bugle corps, because it not only taught us about playing and camaraderie and the meaning of friendship, it really gave us the basics for life and how to cope with different things that you would face in life.
Wow. Brian talks about that all the time. And in fact, he applies a lot of the bugle and drum corps principles that he learned to 2 little youngsters he's involved in their lives. And he visits as a godfather, an uncle, if you will, and sets them straight. Their rooms are clean. We
all remember when we were kids and they had to get us in line and they would say, wait till you go on tour. Or, when you're going through the winter rehearsals, standing and in attention, because a lot of these kids have ADHD and ADD. And I'm like, did we have kids that had that? I don't think so. There's no way they would have made it if they did have that. We didn't see those things because you had, you were taken off the streets and you were taught how to do things. But, I was asking people about it. I don't know.
I took my drum corps teachings into my teaching career. They would send all the bad kids to my classroom sometimes for me to get them in line, because I ran a very tight ship with my students. Not to say that they didn't have fun or anything, but those principles of that things had to be correct, and there was no excuses for anything. But your dog ate your homework, you left your book behind in the desk. I didn't want to hear it.
No, we didn't have
to have practice.
And talking about excuses, I think Edward Dalton's trying to get on. Elmo's trying to get on, and we sent him the link again.
Hi, Brian.
Yep.
Hi, Elmo. I see you in the back, but I need a camera or audio, please. I do see Elmo James backstage, but I do need your mic and your camera, preferably at least both, but at least the microphone. If anything, I can't add you to the stream without one or the other. So if you could, Elmo James, please authorize the mic and the camera. Thank you. Sorry.
Come on, Elmo, you're in radio. Get this going on. You march in the corps. You know how to do this.
Hey, it opened up the way for us to hear from our amazing sound engineer, Rebel, behind the scenes. We don't get to see her, but she pops in and makes everything work, right?
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and so for the audience that doesn't know, you know, we're talking about the early ages of marching in a drum corps, but also, you know, talking in a black drum and bugle corps, which I did not march in. We just happened to be, but for us, you know, in most of the corps, you were a minority if you had someone of color in there. And you didn't see that in a lot of them. You know, I'm thinking of, you know, our friend who passed away, who marched in Santa Clara, you know, in that great drum line that they had in 73, 74. You know,
Brown. I forgot his first name.
Tom Brown.
Yeah, Tom Brown.
You know, doing all that stuff, you know, marching in Blessed Sacrament, which was from Blessed Sacrament, New Jersey. And so Howard, you were right when it comes to about that. There were so many corps in Connecticut. There were so many corps in New Jersey. There must have been 50, 60 when you think about it, because every weekend we were going to someone else's show.
Area.
Yeah.
And that's how that's how I started traveling. I was never home. We'd go to, you know, Mystic. We'd go to Stanford. We'd go to maybe into New York and drive back that same night. And I just remember this because sometimes when I'm talking to Carol, she will have memories of mine come up. I'm like, I never thought about that. Thank you, Carol, for reminding me of these things. Pack a bag lunch, because a lot of kids did not have money and you didn't think about it at the point. Or if you were lucky, we did 38 stops in 1 year in McDonald's, which we know we set the record till this day. and we know that because I kept count after a while. I'm like, we're going to another McDonald's. And we weren't McDonald's out. We were happy to go to McDonald's, you know, instead of eating our bag lunch. But it was one of those things where you learned a lot by just being young kids, being on the road, that they didn't teach you in elementary or high school. Till this day, they don't.
True.
And like Harold said, it carries over. It carries through to your careers.
Yeah.
I mean, for years, I was a trial attorney, and I've used the same skills that I learned in drum corps when I'm trying a case, because you have to be focused, you have to be disciplined, you have to know how to present. So it carries through. The bottom line, it served us well.
That's amazing. Richard, with the way you've seen things evolve, with it being such a pricey support enterprise right now, do you feel like it's more important for teams and clubs to come together in unity to help prevent rising costs? Or do you feel like it's more powerful to stay separate to help in those causes? I don't even know, are those causes going on to help lower the price for kids and to get more kids involved?
Well, I think the current design of drum corps, the expense is there because it's extremely expensive. It's almost like a Broadway presentation.
Yeah.
When Harold and I were out in the field, it was completely different. And I don't think its current configuration allows for the grooming that we got, you know, like Brian and Harold and myself and Elmo, if he gets his camera working, right? and I don't think it lends to that. So I think it's more important to sort of take a back step. Drum corps as it is right now is going to be what it is. I think grassroots people who appreciate no drum corps, we need to start local things. You know, Harold was saying, I think Brian, you had said that there were corps all over the place, different states. Just in Bedford-Stuyvesant, there was Wynn Center, there was Carter Cadets, two of the I got to keep going. Riversiders, right? Those were competitive corps. But in addition to the competitive corps, there were corps that were just parade corps. And that involved all of the kids throughout the area, throughout Bed-Stuy and going into Bronx and Manhattan. And that has been lost. And the things that we were taught that helped us, you're not going to get in the big corps now because these kids can't afford that, number one. They can't afford to fly to California to go to practice, and that's what some of these kids are doing, or to the different states that have corps. So I think in order to really get the meaning and the value that drum corps had previously brought, we have to back up and we have to go local.
You know, Carol, I think the comparison, if you were to put it into colleges or, you know, let's go to gymnastics. When you want to go and work with that best coach to train you, you know, you might be, I'm thinking of wrestling, Dan Gable. What was it, Iowa? I guess he was in. So if you wanted to go to that school, he's the best college coach. For wrestling, you want to go there. For, you know,
same in gymnastics or any sport, really, right? You want to go to the top. So
exactly.
Yeah. So that makes sense. And I'm kind of thinking back to our first episode. Did we talk about scholarships that might be available? Because I remember there are some organizations that were out there, but it's a little bit of a teaser in my mind if you guys know of that.
I'm sure I'm sure that there are scholarships available, but I'll call it quote unquote sport, right? The
you're disciplined athletes, right?
Yeah. So the sport or the activity of drum corps, each corps is limited in size. Yeah. So you may have a lot of kids that may want to participate, but they may not be able to get in. They may not have the background to get in. They may not read music. You know, when Harold and I started, I didn't read music, right?
I didn't read music either. I still can't read music. I can pretend that I can read music only because all the corps played what I knew, the songs. I mean, I knew them all. There wasn't anything that I could not play off the top because you got good at improvising. Right. Like this, improvising.
Right.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, but the change now is you wouldn't know what these corps are playing now because they're basically, and Harold, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're all original arrangements. So it's completely different. These kids are probably all reading. They also are coming from schools, you know, from junior high schools or high schools where they have those programs in them. There are a lot of schools that don't have music programs. Right. Yeah. You know, so they're at a disadvantage. So that's why, in my opinion, go grassroots. You know what? I don't necessarily agree with the drum corps is today, but I do agree with what it could provide if we could get back to grassroots.
Wow.
Carol, there was a very good DCI episode. I mean, not episode, telecast. I believe it might have been 74 or 75. They were on PBS. And when I saw the first time, I said, you know what? This is a great time to market drum corps to regular kids. But they didn't. And it was a golden opportunity to boys and girls, you know, run a little ad thing. You know, if you want to join a drum and bugle corps, here's where to go, da-da-da. And they never took that step. And they had a golden opportunity to do it, and they didn't do it.
Where would you send kids now that, you know, parents are listening to this? Where would you send them?
In New York, send them to New York Metropolis. Go online to newyorkmetropolis.org.
Okay.
And kids know now because they have the internet. Well, you know, we didn't have internet, obviously.
No.
We saw things in person. They go, oh, I love this corps. Oh, I want to march with them. Till this day, there's not a day that doesn't go by where I thank the universe. I thank God that I didn't go live in Massachusetts to march with 27th Lancers and end up in Boston. Well, I didn't go to Madison, Wisconsin in the snow. They end up with the Scouts because I didn't want to go to Wisconsin winters back then. No, it's nothing because I would have stayed there. And I know that I would have stayed there. Thank goodness that I love Santa Clara Vanguard and said, I'm going to California to be close to them. And that's why I went there. But it was also the #2 market in Los Angeles to be down in Southern California for that.
Look at that.
We got Mr. Dalton in here.
Oh, great.
All right, we got to welcome Edward on first, man. Where you been? What's going on?
Hello, everybody. Life is going on.
Technology.
Yeah, that too. Brian, I hope you got the pictures and everything that I sent you.
Yeah, we got some photos.
Okay, good.
Good.
We were just waiting for people.
Yeah, I think there's a problem. I found this this link here, but Harold, I had I emailed you, I text you, I did it all. Elmo, have you heard from Elmo?
He's trying to get in.
On still.
Yeah, see, he's having the same problem I was having.
But you know what? These photos are great. So that photo right there, that reminds you on the New London Surfers. Those were our colors. So when you saw us, recognizable.
Cadets, 1965.
Is that who was that? Carter?
Yeah,
That's Carter.
Okay, good.
So
good,
Carol,
good.
American flag was always prominent. Everybody, almost everybody went through. What did they call it? So we had to make sure our shoes were shining, everything. Inspections. Remember those days? All of those like that.
There's quite a few young ladies that are featured in these pictures.
Yeah, have you talked about the color guard yet?
No.
Oh man, that's a very rich subject. There's the VIPs.
Look at that leg lifts. Look at those leg lifts right there.
Yes. VIPs.
Heel to knee. That's great. And even back then and even today, it is about the athleticism of that. You could put us up against any athlete. We will beat any athlete just by endurance, just by hard work, because they may only train 2 or 3 hours. We were out there for 8, 12, sometimes 14 hours.
That's amazing. And people don't even realize, that musicians and dancers, for example, are absolutely athletes. They're strong, they're trained, they're disciplined. I love what you said earlier, Harold, about expectations being that tough in the classroom, because we rise to the level of the expectations around us. And I know that's what you guys experienced with inspections, with the discipline, the habits that were built, the travel. All this experience was setting an expectation of excellence that you guys got to experience. Yeah.
Well, let me mention that, it's and Harold, I know you've probably touched this already, but this was it all started from the military.
Yes.
It was, VFW, American Legion, all those guys coming back from the war. Right, coming back from the war, noticed all these gangs, and said, "Hey, let's put uniforms on them and take the rocks and the bottles out of their hands and put horns and drums in them." Yeah, and that's what all of this neighborhood stuff started from. Now, with that in mind, there was a thick layer of the military in this.
Yeah,
you had a start, pow, from the gun. You had a middle with a concert and a flag presentation.
Wow.
Always.
And always. That was always. That's part. You couldn't be a drum corps back then if you didn't do that part right there, the presentation of colors.
Edward, was there an underlying expectation that was there an underlying training going on to enter the military? Were kids funneled that way through Bugle and drum?
Well, you got to remember now. I see you shaking your head over there. You got to remember now. This is Vietnam War. Most of us were high school, watching the newspaper, and for our birthdays. And it just happened. The year I graduated was 1969. It was the year that my mother was livid about this whole thing. So finding other ways of channeling our energies, from high school on, was a difficult thing. I mean, we were navigating all kinds of line bomb traps out here. But you know, the underlying thing here, I guess, was that, you know, there was this offering, this program, this neighborhood thing that those of us who were tired of looking at the other stuff, found this, and it literally changed my life. You know, and I've talked with Harold, I've talked with others, I've talked with, you know, we're all sound alike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was something that we found that was different, that appealed to something different in us.
Yeah. Brian, you've talked about how you feel like it saved your life.
Oh, absolutely. Because one of the reasons why I never played football or, you know, team sports, because it couldn't have gotten better than drum corps. You know, drum corps is really 11 months out of the year. You might have 3 weeks where you're off, and then you go back into, you know, winter camp, that they call it now. But, you know, we would call it just winter rehearsals, waiting to go. And we'd be excited. Oh, who are we going to go march up against? What states are we going to go to? Are we going to go to a country? You know, things like that, because the band wasn't doing. Bands back then didn't like drum and bugle corps. They adamantly didn't like it. A lot of the directors, they hated it when their kids marched in drum corps, because they felt like their members were being taken away, which was not the case.
Well, the other thing, Brian, is that back in the day, bands could not hold a candle to drum and bugle corps. Drum and bugle corps were
not in my neighborhood.
Right, they were very polished, sharp, military. You knew what they were playing. Nowadays, you would probably look for a band in a parade as opposed to a drum corps, because the drum corps of today, to me, it's a waste. They don't really play.
Interesting.
Carol, the thing that caught my attention, that really got me sucked in, was how a drum and bugle corps sounded. The sound of those bugles was something I had never heard from a marching band. It was just like, oh my God, what is that sound?
Yeah. And let them know, trumpets are not louder than bugles.
No, they're not made for outdoors.
No. What?
Yeah. That's what people don't understand. G bugles, it's what people, you know, were, you know, think of a G bugle.
They had to be loud because they were signals. You know, they were retreat, dinner, charge. You know, that's what those bugles had to be loud. They were announcements of royalty and so forth and so on. Carol, I would like to mention this, since I don't know if we talked about the girls or not, but let me talk about the girls for a minute.
I'd love to hear that.
Especially the ones in the VIPs, fellas. I'm sorry for a minute, but let me go with the VIPs here for a minute.
No, that's why I sent in the pictures.
Right.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll talk about the toppers.
I know I got you, Harold, but you know, I don't want to offend anybody else. But let me tell you this. When we started in the drum corps, when I started with the VIPs, okay, because I had 2 years under my belt with the boys club, but I came up on, got my nerves, came up on a hill, got with the VIPs, loved their program, loved what they were doing, practiced my butt off. But what got us to the level of competition that we were at were the women. Wow. Oh my God. They went into, John Brazali took them all into hiding. Wow. And when we were allowed to see them, we thought it was a circus act, a good circus act, a magic circus act. Mm-hmm. Because these women, if you can imagine, if you've seen the Marine Corps silent drill team, that was those women that you're seeing with the jacked up knees. Those were them. They silently did everything. you heard one voice, and that was the commander's voice, and everything else you heard were sounds of rifles, sabers, and flags, and feet hitting the floor.
Oh, wow.
It was the most beautiful thing that I'd ever seen, that the guys, we said to ourselves at that point, we've got to step it up, guys. Look at this. This is amazing what they were doing. John Brazali, that's why John Brazali went to the Drum Corps Hall of Fame. That's why he has a special award in his name, you know, with DCI, because he was that marvelous. He spent 8 years with them women that you saw with the jacked up knees. He spent 8 years with them women and had them within 2 years, within a year and a half. It was less than 2 years. They turned 1968 into a championship year.
Wow.
Followed by 1969, followed by 1970.
Wow.
Okay. And 1969, that picture you saw of them was in 1969. They won 12 out of 14 shows.
Wow.
And the 2 shows they lost were championships.
Wow.
Championships.
It sounds like an amazing synergy, like an amazing, you know, that you guys were mutually inspiring one another. You were mutually wanting to raise each other up in the level that you were at. And going back to what you said about the band directors, it seems to me like there was a little bit of an intelligence leak there, if you don't mind me saying that, because if I was a band director, I'd be wanting somebody trained with the bugle corps skills, the incredible drumming. And
my band director from East Lyme High School, when I went to the all-white high school, he was drum corps friendly. He let me come in and let me just change everything around. I'm thankful to
he was the exception.
AI guy. I'm thankful for Don McTavish. Brian, we want to march like a drum corps.
He was the exception.
You came with no recommendation from Waterford High School. We didn't know you were coming. And I just like showed up and I tilted, the drums were tilted. I straightened them up. I said, we're going to march like this. We're going to march in a straight line. We're going to play Santa Clara clocks. We're going to play some 27 stuff. We're going to do this stuff. We looked like Garfield Cadets because our colors were maroon and gold. We had all of this stuff. And then we started bringing in people, former New London Surfers staff to teach our, and then we ended up winning. But the old band director from Waterford High School, he looked at it like a threat. They're coming to take my kids away, like we were going to go eat them or something like that. We're never going to see them during the summer. They're not at band camp because we were still on tour.
Brian, I was specifically told by my band teacher, this is junior high school. I was an accomplished. I was good at the baritone and the tuba. Okay. And in fact, made my mama proud. She was first row, you know, when we did the graduation for that year for our junior high school. I had finally got to play the tuba. And to show you how this guy was, now he told me, I talked about boys club, joining the boys club, which was right down the street from us, making all that noise that Harold was talking about, all that pretty music and all that drumming and them fancy uniforms. My God, had to be a part of that. With all that fancy stuff going on, I lose my train of thought so dang easy. We're talking about the band instructors and what they were telling us, and I was told to stay away from that drum corps down the street because they were talking about how
evil.
Bad the kids, evil, yes, how bad the kids were, and blah blah blah. Once I joined it, it was a completely different scene there. when I left junior high school, I graduated that year and went to I was supposed to go to Anacostia in Southeast. Well, I walked into Anacostia and I had this great big case with my contrabass in it.
Yeah.
And, I'm excited about joining the band. I know how to read music and I'm sitting down to it. And this guy said, the band instructor said to me, "What the hell is that?" I said, "It's a tuba." He said, "Get it the hell out of here."
Wow.
Never went back to bands ever.
Wow. Mario, I see your comment. You marched with the what'd you say? The Wynn Center Toppers. That's so cool.
Mario marched with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I tell you that
Edward, go ahead, Richard, go ahead.
Oh, the climate in Brooklyn was a little bit different from what Edward experienced because I went to boys' high school in Brooklyn. So I graduated the same year as you, Brian, 69. Or was that Edward? Sorry, Edward graduated in 69. The band in boys' high school was made up of people from the drum corps. and boys' high school had an excellent band. So there were people from Wynn Center, from Carter's, from Warriors, all in that band. And it was an excellent band.
Yeah, that made the band better. And so for these directors that knew that, those individuals stood out. Now, remember, I didn't know how to read music. I came off the streets. But boy, we knew what to do when you put us in that for that band. So again, I'm always thankful for that. But these band directors this day, you might find one that says, "Oh, they can march after they get out of band." No, better to march ahead of time. I heard this like 4 years ago. It's interesting. Wow. But all these kids now, they have access to the internet. They can see this. Oh, it's going to cost me this much to go march with this corps. I'm going to go try out. I don't know what the signing the contracts things, man. I don't know where that came in. That makes absolutely no sense to me. What is that? A sign of commitment, or you're signing your life away? I don't get it.
Probably both.
Yeah. Little blood and your firstborn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And
tell everybody where. Oh, sorry, Richard. Richard, go ahead. Finish. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say Edward was talking about color guards, and I would not be doing a service to Wynn Center if I didn't talk about the Topperettes. We had an excellent color guard. Same thing. They competed separately. As a corps, we competed during the summer. Topperettes also competed in winter in the winter guard. And it's the same thing. I'm sure Howard would have the same stories with Carter's. A lot of the guys that joined the corps because of the young ladies in the Topperettes or in Warriors, and I'm sure in the VIPs.
Yeah, hey, you saw our ladies.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? I actually fell in love with a girl from the Fireettes.
I remember them.
Her name is Mary, who ended up being the first female snare drummer in the 27th Lancers. She's part of the Chicks with Sticks. Those famous 4 women that marched in the finals in 1980. But I looked at it, I'm like, that woman just looks pretty. And I fell in love with her. I never found out who this other girl was, but that made me want to come back. It was the women that made you want to join the drum corps.
Yeah, well, to be honest,
But the other thing about that was marching up and down. When they marched on cement, Carol, it was like boom, boom, boom in unison. I'm like, wow, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And they were looking straight. You could say something to them, they wouldn't turn their heads. It was just, you were just disciplined. I'm like,
discipline.
I want to do that as a little kid.
Yes.
Dawson, the Topperettes always had this swag to them when they marched. There's a little rock that they had to, and when they stopped at a halt, they had a nice little move. When they came to a halt, that's like we get the crowd all hyped up.
Yeah, but most of the corps, when you came to stop, the corps would just stop. Topperettes had a move, and to be honest with you, I don't know how to do it. And I saw it all those years. It's really impressive. Yeah,
it's amazing.
But here's another thing. Also, trooping the stands was very important. When you come in front of that crowd, the whole crowd would just go up. They'd get up and just, that was the relief that you got of why you did all those summer rehearsals and practices.
Yes.
And things like that. doing that thing, and everybody loved it.
Brian, did you just see that comment? Somebody popped in here and said that their mother and their father marched with the Wynn Center. Brooklyn Reg, it looks like, or BKLYN, Reg. My mother and father marched with Wynn Center. I was raised on it. Went to a few contests as a child and loved it. Didn't join Corps, but a huge fan. That's kind of cool, to see another generation come along.
Especially since I probably marched with his mother and father.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Was it the greatest time in our lives that we marched? Because for me,
yes.
I'm not going to kid you. Yes.
Well, so, all right. So, no, it's interesting, but Carol, this is black men saying this. You don't get a chance to see this because they know what does shows like this on this.
Yeah.
Because majority of that the corps were white. Casper Troopers, Casper, Wyoming, all white, great corps. They played, Battle Hymn and Republic. They would have a Sunburst that come out like this. You looked at these things like that. Santa Clara played, the Young Man's Guide of Orchestra. Phantom Regiment was playing all classic music. Boston Crusaders, they were all white, but they had a secret alignment with the black, CMCC Warriors that there was not going to be any fighting. They would have got their asses kicked. But, that's another story. But you had those things like that where you would see these other corps, and then years later, if you wore those corps jackets, remember those corps jackets that everybody was proud of, you had fun wearing those because that was like a sign of honor. It was like a Letterman in high school in a way.
Yeah.
But there's also a difference. I don't know if Edward, if you experienced the same thing. In Wynn Center, when we came home from a contest, sometimes it would be 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. We're coming in from different places. In the community, Bedford-Stuyvesant community, they waited for us.
Oh, yeah.
We would get off of the buses about 4 or 5 blocks away from our center, and we would march from the center, and the neighborhood.
Now that's cool.
Look for that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And it was a big thing. It was just a whole community involvement, and it was really great. We even on Halloween, we would have a Halloween parade for the community so the kids could go trick-or-treating. The Corps would dress up in costumes, and all of the kids in the neighborhood would follow the Corps, and they would go trick-or-treating.
Oh, wow.
Wow, man, that is cool.
Yeah. Right. And that's part of the neighborhood thing and the development thing that I think Drum Corps today doesn't have.
Does not have.
I don't know it. I don't think. Yeah.
Hey, we only got 3 minutes left, actually 2 minutes left. Edward, give your social media links for everybody and how people can reach out and follow and Metropolis.
Send a link. Do I type it out?
You can just say it.
Just say it. The VIP group. Wow. The VIP group Inc.org. Yeah. That's
and I will find it and I'll make sure I'll put it in tomorrow for stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Richard.
I am currently with NewYorkMetropolis.org, starting the Junior Drum and Bugle Corps in Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn.
Really?
Awesome.
Yes.
Hey, Carol.
Send hey Richard, your email, man.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm at Neurocoach Carol, short for neuroscience, NEURO Coach Carol on IG. You can also find me under Carol Register on IG, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Carol.
Once again, you can find me on hbdrummer@hotmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook as Harold Barber.
And the funny thing about this, I was looking at your wanting to find a photo of you. That's why I used your cartoon version, your avatar of you. I love seeing those pictures of St. Rita's Brassmen because I never got a chance to see them because we didn't compete with them. But I knew that they were just great. And just looking at that timpani line and just looking at those snares, I was just, wow, I would love to be in them.
I played in timpani in 72, so I had to read music.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So with Scribner Media, Blake Scribner, is he still continuing to produce a film around this?
The last time I corresponded from, yes, he's got a whole list format of what he's trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah, Carol, it's just the money.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, we're kind of waiting on him to get all that straightened out, and you know, that's kind of also the seat of Elmo and I's frustrations.
Yeah,
this thing's taking so long.
Yeah,
and we will find out what happened to Elmo.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where's Elmo?
Yeah, Elmo will make himself known. You know, yeah, where's Elmo? Yeah.
That means we might have to do a part 3 next year.
That's right.
Well, I hope so.
Let him do a solo act.
Yeah, you know, because by then, Brian, we may have something in production.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for coming on. We're out of time. So here's the thing about this. I always say this: have a good night tonight, a better day tomorrow. You see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. And we're going to put out a search party, Finding Elmo. Maybe that will be the theme on it.
The search for Elmo.
Yeah.
We will see you next week. And everybody have a good night.
Yes, sir.